salvage it. And for his next act, Evelyn's will fix the internet. Quite the characterization. So, like, where's your cape, first of all? And is this what you're trying to do? Save the internet? Save media? Is this it?
I get accused of trying to save the internet a lot. Those aren't my words. I did say it was broken, but I didn't say I personally was going to fix it. I think a lot of people are trying to make it better. It's also great in many ways, but I think that what I'm particularly focused on is the incentive structure around publishing, really, and about idea dissemination, creation of high-quality content, stories, how those get created, incentivized, and spread to people is what we're trying to focus on in media.
Well, and so tell me, Medium has gone through many different iterations, right? So we're almost at like Medium 3.0, right? Would that be the...
It's mostly the same since day one.
So what does it look like now?
Medium's been around for 6 years. It's been an open publishing platform from day one, meant to be a clean, well-lit place to share ideas and stories. And we started focusing on subscription as the business model about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years now. Beginning of 2017 is when we announced our intention to do that. In May of 2017, we fully launched a subscription, and we've been focused on that since then. The core of the product has remained the same. What we've added is a paywall and a subscription, and that's created this new feedback loop where every month more and more people subscribe. We're spending more and more money on content, and that's going very well.
You talk about this feedback loop. Patty mentioned this when he was talking, this attention economy, this idea that screaming, yelling is optimized, is rewarded, and all these things are now happening. So if you could look at it and say, all right, this is what needs to change in order to get us out of this cycle, what do you think it would be?
Well, I think the fundamental problem that we're focused on is a microcosm of one of the biggest problems in society, which is simply that we've created a world in which attention is rewarded in quantity, and meaning it's not the quality of the attention, it's not how you make people feel, it's whether you get their attention. And we've optimized the systems, both traditional media, social media, online and offline, where attention is rewarded, and it's what we can measure is rewarded. And we can measure whether people are paying attention by what page their browser is on, or what social media they're liking, but we can't actually measure how they feel. We can't measure if they're getting smarter. We can't measure if they're understanding the world better. And so we've really created this system in society where the class clown, or the disruptive kid in school who's very effective at getting attention but not effective at helping people, that becomes the winning play. And it's throughout from social media saying, well, how many likes did you get on that statement, or how much just eyeballs did you get if you're creating media? And obviously, if you create a system that rewards attention, the easiest way to get attention is to be a bad actor. And so that underlies our media ecosystem, that underlies our political system, and it's degrading society in so many ways.
So what do you think? Let's look down the road 10, 15 years. What do you think does the media landscape look like if we solve this?
If we solve this, I think what I'm excited about right now is we're seeing the beginning of a transition away from a pure attention economy at least for publishing and for other types of media. I mean, if you look at what's happening in television, I think it's encouraging, because there is 15 years ago, reality TV seemed to be the epitome after however many decades of TV evolving. It's like, oh, this is what we have now, and people like it. And obviously that still exists and people like it, but that was the result of what's the cheapest way that we can get attention. That's what an ad economy will get you. And now we live in this other world where that still exists, and there's a whole new art form of deep narrative storytelling that is much richer in production and quality than ever existed before, because the business model changed. And so on the internet, we're still in the reality TV phase a little bit, but there is going to be a premium side that's going to be much better than anything we ever saw before. And time for storytelling, for journalism, for new content forms that actually aren't even sustainable with ads only because the market is being retrained and people are starting to pay.
Almost like a model that's similar to Spotify or Netflix.
Yeah, I think there will be similar things to that. I mean, subscription works very well. It's a good business model. It makes sense to people. People through those companies and others have learned that you get a dramatically better experience and better content and without the disruption of ads if you're willing to pay. The same thing is going to happen for the things people read and other forms of media, and we're just seeing that working already.
But do you think, I mean, look at Facebook. Wouldn't they have to completely change their business model in order for this to be accomplished?
Well, I think Facebook and the distribution platforms are a different thing than what I'm talking about. And because Twitter, Facebook, Google, the companies that make the majority of the digital ad money, that is not directly paying for content, that's paying for the distribution of content. And that's paying for social media, which isn't better if people pay for it, really. The best social media is much more personal, it's not motivated by commercial gain. And so I'm talking more about the publishing in particular, but I think all types of professional media are benefited from a subscription.
What if we look to the future and great information is what we have to pay for? Do you worry that we almost have I always like to put on
from tech, and I think their intentions are good. But the second thing that's interesting is in many ways up till now, media and tech have been different worlds, just like tech and everything else. And even though media was the first thing to be techified, if you will, or moved to the internet, it's sort of been parallel worlds for a long time, and where there's tech-driven media and there's media-driven media. And media-driven media has lived on the internet and uses tech, but it hasn't been, we kind of see two different worlds. And so I've been thinking about this a lot from the medium point of view. What we've really embraced is saying, you know what, these two things, the best solution for creators and consumers comes when we really infuse one with the other. When we don't limit ourselves to an open platform where everything goes and algorithms determine what people see, but we also don't limit ourselves to a closed world where only a select few have voices and it all has to be created, by a select few people. How can we combine these worlds? And I think similarly, some of the reason that the Washington Post has done well is because it's been infused with tech, and I don't know what Benioff's plans are for a time, but I do see a better world where basically traditional media embraces tech in a much deeper way, and that will happen whether or not tech billionaires buy them.
How do you figure out what's quality content? I mean, there's this whole narrative we're talking about, even at Facebook is struggling with this, what's hate. We see very clearly some instances of what's hate speech, what does belong on the platform, what doesn't, but then there's all this in between. And, I think as tech entrepreneurs, everyone's like, oh, we don't want to be editors, we don't want to be editorial, but you guys don't exactly have that option anymore. So how do you decide what's quality with the in-between stuff, not the very clear abuse and hate speech?
One of the interesting lessons in the last year and a half for Medium is that we can't rely on algorithms to determine quality, which is not that surprising, but it was even a little surprising to us because from day one, we prided ourselves on not having superficial metrics like page views or CTR be the determining factor. We wanted the good stuff to rise to the top, so we talked about things like time spent, and we have an internal metric we call read-through rates, which is not only did you click, but did you pay a certain amount of time. What we found, when we started focusing on what get people to pay, is that those metrics are still based on consumption rather than quality. And so the analogy I usually use is someone puts junk food in front of you, a lot of people would eat it, personally speaking. You put some tortilla chips right here, they'd be my weakness, but I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm really happy that I consumed that. And so what we found is people will consume things and even spend time on them and not be happy about it. And when you start focusing on getting people to pay, they have to feel good about what they're consuming. If your model is advertising, they don't have to feel good. They just have to keep doing it. And so the only way we've found to determine that is by using human judgment. And so what we do, we have curation is now a big part of what we do, where we have a pool of content that curators have actually said, this is interesting or this is good. And then we use algorithms on top of that, both to filter for the curators and after it's filtered by curators, to recommend it to people based on their interests.
If you want to lay down to this, you can. I want to ask you, you've also created Twitter. So many folks are talking about Twitter ruining democracy, being bad for society. As the creator, as one of the co-creators of Twitter, how do you feel about that?
I'm glad you said co-creators. I don't take all the blame for that, but I think it's overblown somewhat. I don't have the illusions of grandeur that I have personally, or even with my co-creators of Twitter's, destroyed democracy. And I think we can do better. I think in general, whether I got asked earlier today, or is society better off with social media? And when you start asking that question, you really have to remember all the things we take for granted today that we wouldn't have without social media. The idea that everybody actually has a voice and can put it out there with no gatekeepers, and important ideas spread that way, and movements spread that way, and Me Too and Black Lives Matter spread that way. And on a smaller scale, people get jobs and change their lives and make friends, and all these things that we have seen. We see these examples all the time. So I'm proud to have been a part of that creation. And I think the larger moment we're in, where like I said, the attention is what's getting rewarded in society as a whole, is we're certainly part of that as well with Twitter. And the other thing I'd say is there is reason to be optimistic as well, because I think there's we're still in the beginnings really of these technologies and how they've impacted society and really understanding them. So the innovation or progress doesn't happen that smoothly, so I'm optimistic there's a lot we can do to make it better.
Is there looking back, any product decision maybe you would have rethought?
There's many product decisions I would have.
Specific?
I think showing follow counts or follower counts was probably ultimately detrimental.
Why?
Because it really put in your face that the game was popularity. And I remember a moment when I was, the night before I was going on Oprah to talk about Twitter, I saw on CNN, they were talking about go to Twitter and follow CNN, and they were racing Ashton Kutcher to 1 million followers. No one had 1 million followers yet. And of course, if you have a startup, we're a tiny company. That's the most amazing publicity of all time. So it's easy to say in retrospect, but today maybe we shouldn't have follower accounts. A lot of these things drove growth, and if we wouldn't have had them, maybe someone else would have done them and built a much more dominant platform. So but I think today that's not necessarily healthy. A worse one actually that relates to follower counts is we have this thing we call the suggested user list. This is my fault, where when people had signed up for Twitter, they didn't know who to follow. And it wasn't like Facebook where you just connect to your friends, is connect to people you find interesting, but they don't know who's interesting. So we just selected some interesting accounts, and we had a group of them that you would by default follow if you're just getting started, didn't know who else to follow. So those accounts grew like crazy. We got hundreds of thousands of followers very quickly, and then that became success. But those weren't real interest-based follows, and then someone who had grown their following organically compares themselves to them, and it's inauthentic. And so there's things like that are still built in. Jack's been talking about some of these incentives lately. I think we need to rethink a lot of these things.
One of the things that I thought was interesting that you do at Medium is this quickly fail type thing, and I'd love if you could tell, because I know there are a lot of entrepreneurs in the audience. you said you need the confidence to say you're wrong a lot. So like, assuming you're wrong a lot, like talk about that and how that plays into building a company, whether it's Twitter or Medium or any company.
You know, I am wrong a lot, and one of the things I try to do at Medium and trying to get better at is being willing to take a stance and being willing to say we're wrong. In fact, I tell my whole company, we always have to remember we're wrong. We're to some degree wrong. We're all wrong in our daily lives about something. But before you know what you're wrong about, you assume you're right. And so it's very healthy, I think, to accept the fact that there's some set of stuff we're wrong about at any given time. But what you can't do is let that freeze you in place and say like, well, we're not going to do this thing because it might be wrong. That paralyzes you. And so the mindset I think you have to take on is say, okay, we're wrong. We need to find out how we're wrong as quickly as possible. So let's run in that direction and look for where we might be wrong about. Look for that hole in the ground. Look for that tree branch that's going to whop you in the head, and adjust. And today, I think that's a natural sort of mindset that you have when you're doing a startup and you're two people around the table or in the basement and you're changing your mind 7 times a day. Once you've launched something, once you've raised money, once you're on the stage, once you're being critiqued, then I get asked all the time, it's like Medium, like you started out, it's like been through all these iterations, and there is an assumption that that's a bad thing. Not that you were making that assumption, but I get a lot of, like, you give just have tried a lot of things. Like, of course we've tried a lot of things. We're trying to do this massive, important project. That's going to take a lot of attempts and stuff, and I think we should probably be failing faster than we are.
I asked Palmer Luckey this question that I want to ask you. I've asked a lot of entrepreneurs this. What do you think is the single most important ethical question we need to look at when it comes to the future of technology and increasingly this complicated intersection with humanity?
Single most important.
Yeah, if you had to jam on this is dinner table conversation, Silicon Valley, like take us all here in Lisbon into that and into the conversations you guys have. What are you genuinely thinking about when it comes to the future?
I think the thing that is probably the most concerning and affects technology and the economy in general is the have and have not question that you asked earlier. It's really the rich getting richer, and technology drives that and exacerbates that, and I think that's the biggest thing I'm worried about sort of as a non-technology issue, or I guess maybe it could be, is climate change, and have and have-nots is going to be the problem there as well. I don't think humanity is going to go away from Earth, but I think the people who are able to survive, I worry is going to be who can afford to survive. So that's a scary question, but the have and have-nots will come down to everything. Not that concerned about information access as much as health access, shelter access. That's a really big deal.
I opened Web Summit. I was with Tim Berners-Lee, this contract for the web, and how we have these great values to really have a positive experience and go back to that initial vision that I'm sure you're an optimist. I've known you for many years. Going back to that. So, because we're closing out, Ev Williams, creator of Twitter, blogger, Medium, make the case for the next version of the internet and social media and what it looks like. Argue for this optimistic version of the future.
Well, I choose to be an optimist. It's hard to be in this job or be in the world without being an optimist. It's more fun.